Last Christmas Eve was etched in my memory like a scar. The snow fell softly outside my father's mansion while I huddled in the unheated garage, wrapped in the thin blanket my stepmother Diana had thrown at me with a smirk. "The guest rooms are for actual guests," she'd said, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she gestured dismissively. "The garage is good enough for you. After all, we're already being generous letting you stay at all." I was 32, a successful software engineer, and yet somehow still the unwanted daughter who'd never quite fit into their perfect blended family. My father had married Diana when I was 12, and she'd brought along her precious twins, Emma and Ethan. From that day forward I became the family afterthought. "Sarah." My father's voice echoed through the intercom system he'd had installed in every room, including, mockingly, the garage. "Diana says you're settled in for the night?" I pulled the blanket tighter, watching my breath form clouds in the cold air. "Stat. All settled. Good. The twins are showing everyone their Harvard acceptance letters. Shame you couldn't make something of yourself like that." I bit back a laugh. If he only knew that the company I'd founded 3 years ago was now worth more than his entire real estate empire. But I'd kept that quiet, working under my mother's maiden name, building something far from their judgment and expectations. The garage door creaked and Emma slipped in, her designer boots clicking on the concrete. "Oh good, you found your spot next to Dad's Porsche." Her smile was pure venom. "Though I suppose you should be used to being around cars given your, what do you call it? Computer repair business." "Software development," I corrected quietly, thinking of the 3 floors my company occupied in downtown Seattle's most prestigious building. Right. Well, everyone's talking about Ethan's internship offer from Goldman Sachs. Mom's absolutely glowing." She paused, examining her manicure. "But hey, at least you can fix people's laptops or whatever." I said nothing, remembering the contract my company had just signed with Goldman Sachs. A cybersecurity deal worth 9 figures. The same contract Ethan would probably be fetching coffee for the executives discussing. The intercom crackled again. "Emma darling. Come back inside. We're about to open presents." "Coming, Mom." She turned back to me with fake sympathy. "Don't worry, we'll save your gift for morning. It's just a little something from the clearance rack, but we know you'll appreciate anything." After she left, I pulled out my phone, checking the emails I'd been ignoring all evening. My CFO had sent over the final numbers for our latest acquisition, a struggling real estate firm that had caught my eye. Not because of its potential but because of its name, Anderson Properties. My father's company. He didn't know it yet, but his empire was crumbling. Bad investments, overextended credit lines, and a market turning against him. In 3 months he'd be facing bankruptcy. In 4 months, a mysterious holding company, my holding company, would buy everything for pennies on the dollar. I'd planned it meticulously, watching from afar as his arrogance led him deeper into debt. Diana's extravagant spending hadn't helped. The new wing she'd added to the mansion had cost millions they didn't really have. My phone buzzed, my assistant Jessica. "The Anderson Properties paperwork is ready. Their stock dropped another 12% today. Your father's board is panicking." I smiled in the darkness of the garage. Hold the papers until after Christmas. Let them enjoy their last holiday in the mansion. Through the garage windows I could see them all gathered in the living room. Diana presiding over the gift-giving like a queen, Emma and Ethan preening as they opened expensive presents, my father beaming at his real family. The sound of their laughter carried through the thin walls. Diana's voice rose above the others. "This has been the perfect Christmas. Everything is absolutely perfect." I pulled up the Anderson Properties stock chart on my phone, watching the steady decline. "Enjoy it while it lasts," I whispered. Another text from Jessica. "Your new mansion's renovation is complete. The guest house alone is bigger than their entire property." I looked around the cold garage at the space they thought I deserved. In 3 months they'd learn what it felt like to have nothing. In 4 months they'd be the ones begging for a place to stay. The garage door opened again, Diana carrying another blanket. "Here," she tossed it carelessly. "Your father insisted. Though really you should be grateful we're letting you stay at all. It's not like you contribute anything to this family." I caught the blanket, noting the clearance tag she hadn't bothered to remove. "Thank you, Diana. You're too kind." She sniffed, surveying the garage. "Well, at least you know your place. Unlike Emma and Ethan, you'll never amount to anything grand. But that's fine. Someone has to be the family disappointment. As she turned to leave, my phone lit up with another message. The Anderson Properties Board had called an emergency meeting for December 26th. They'd discovered something troubling about their finances. Diana, I called after her. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the mansion. He paused at the door. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I smiled in the darkness. Just thinking about how quickly things can change. 1 year later, I stood in my new mansion's entryway watching the December snow fall. The house made my father's look like a cottage, 15,000 square feet of modern luxury overlooking Seattle's best views. The irony that I'd bought it from one of his former business rivals wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed, the security gate. Miss Chin, your father and his family are here. I took a deep breath, smoothing my designer dress. Not that they'd recognize the brand. Send them up. They arrived in what was clearly a rental car, a far cry from last year's Porsche. Diana's designer coat was last season's, and the twins' Harvard sweaters looked worn. Amazing how quickly appearances can change when the money runs out. Sarah, my father's voice cracked slightly. Thank you for agreeing to see us. I gestured them inside, watching Diana's eyes widen at the marble foyer, the soaring ceilings, the priceless art. Everything she'd lost when Anderson Properties collapsed. Nice place, Emma managed, trying to maintain her usual superiority. Your computer business must be doing well. Nova Tech is doing exceptionally well, I corrected, using my company's real name for the first time. Though you'd know that if you'd bothered to read any business news this year. We're the ones who acquired Anderson Properties during the bankruptcy. The silence was deafening. Diana's perfectly maintained facade cracked first. You're behind Stone Valley Holdings? She whispered, naming the company that had bought them out. But that's impossible. They're worth billions. Novatech is worth billions, I confirmed, leading them to my home office. Stone Valley Holdings is just one of our subsidiaries. Would you like to see the paperwork? I keep copies for sentimental reasons. My father sank into one of the leather chairs, looking every bit his 60 years. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you. I laughed softly. When would that have been, Dad? Last Christmas while I was sleeping in the garage. Or maybe during one of the many family dinners I wasn't invited to. Ethan stepped forward, his Harvard confidence somewhat diminished. Listen, about last Christmas. Save it. I sat behind my desk, enjoying how they all remained standing awkwardly. I assume you're here about the guest house. Diana flinched. After losing the mansion, they'd bounced between increasingly modest apartments. Now, with winter setting in and their credit exhausted, they'd finally swallowed their pride enough to call me. We've had some temporary setbacks, my father began. Temporary. I pulled up their financial records on my desktop screen. Your company's gone, your savings are depleted, and Harvard's threatening to withdraw the twins' enrollment over unpaid tuition. I smiled. Doesn't seem very temporary to me. Please, Diana's voice had lost all its previous arrogance. We have nowhere else to go. I stood, walking to the window. Below, the guest house sat nestled in the landscaped grounds, 4,000 square feet of luxury that would have once seemed beneath them. The garage is free, I said quietly. Emma gasped. Ethan's face reddened. My father stood up sharply. Sarah, be reasonable. We're family. Family. I turned back to them. Was I family last Christmas? Or all the years before that, when Diana made sure I knew exactly where I stood in the hierarchy? We made mistakes, Diana admitted, tears threatening her perfect makeup. But surely you don't expect us to stay in a garage. I pulled out a folder. Actually, I had something else in mind. These are employment contracts. Employment? My father looked confused. Novatech is always hiring. Emma, our mailroom needs an assistant. Ethan, the cafeteria's short-staffed. Diana, I believe housekeeping has an opening. I slid the contracts across the desk. The guest house comes with the jobs. Your choice. The twins exchanged horrified looks. Diana's hands trembled as she reached for the papers. This is punishment, she whispered. No, Diana. This is opportunity. The same kind you never thought I deserved. I sat back down. You have an hour to decide. The garage is always an option, of course. I made sure to leave it unheated for authenticity. My father picked up one of the contracts. And if we refuse? Then you can join the other former Anderson Properties executives at the unemployment office. I hear the lines are quite long this time of year. They huddled together, whispering frantically. Through my office windows I could see more snow beginning to fall. Just like last Christmas, but everything else had changed. My phone buzzed, Jessica, reminding me about the Novatech holiday party tonight. We'd rented the same country club where my father used to host his Christmas celebrations. The irony wasn't lost on me. Time's up, I announced. What's it going to be? Diana stepped forward first, her designer heels clicking softly on my marble floors. Without a word, she picked up a pen and signed the housekeeping contract. The twins followed, their Harvard pride visibly crumbling as they agreed to their new positions. My father was last. The mighty Anderson working for his daughter, he mused, pen hovering over the paper. When did you become so ruthless? I learned from the best, Dad. You always said business was about seizing opportunities. I gestured at the contracts. Consider this your opportunity to understand how it feels to be at someone else's mercy. After they signed, I handed Diana a set of keys. The guest house is through the south gate. Staff entrance, of course. Your uniforms will be delivered tomorrow. I paused. Oh, and one more thing. They turned back expectantly. Merry Christmas, I smiled. I got you something from the clearance rack. I know you'll appreciate anything. Later that night, as I hosted the Novatech holiday party, I caught glimpses of them through the guest house windows. Diana organizing their meager belongings, the twins sullenly unpacking, my father staring out at the mansion that dwarfed his former home. Jessica appeared at my elbow. Your father's old office has been cleared out. Where should we send his personal items? I thought about the family photos he'd kept on his desk, all featuring Diana and the twins, none showing me. The garage, I decided. It's good enough for them. Sometimes revenge isn't about making others suffer. Sometimes it's about making them understand exactly how they made you feel. And sometimes, just sometimes, it comes with the satisfaction of watching them realize that the daughter they thought would never amount to anything now holds their entire future in her hands. Next Christmas, I think I'll have Diana serve dinner. After all, family traditions are important, even if the roles have changed dramatically. The snow continued to fall, covering everything in clean white. A fresh start, some might say. But I preferred to think of it as justice, served cold in the guest house of the daughter they'd once banished to the garage.